The 14th of October will officially be forever known as the first overthrow of a ruler by Generation Z. The president of Madagascar in Africa was ousted in a military coup on the back of widespread Gen Z protests. From the Andes to the Himalayas, a new wave of protests is unfolding across the world, driven by generational discontent against governments and anger among young people. The ouster of the Madagascar president was the culmination of weeks of demonstrations led by young protesters. The rage against the political establishment in the Indian Ocean island country mirrors other recent protests across the world in countries like Nepal, the Philippines, Indonesia, Kenya, Peru, and Morocco. These protests have been sparked by specific grievances, but are driven by long-simmering issues like widening inequality, economic uncertainty, corruption, and nepotism of leaders. What connects these youth-led protests is a shared sense that traditional political systems aren't responsive to their generation's concerns. The most widely recognized movement to be dubbed as a Gen Z protest was a deadly uprising in Nepal that culminated with the resignation of the prime minister in September. Protesters drew inspiration from successful anti-government movements elsewhere in South Asia, Sri Lanka in 2022 and Bangladesh in 2024, which led to the ouster of incumbent regimes. Across multiple countries, a singular pop culture symbol has emerged, a black flag showing a grinning skull and crossbones wearing a straw hat. The flag comes from a cult Japanese manga and anime series called One Piece, which follows a crew of pirates as they take on corrupt governments. The events in Madagascar will likely inspire Gen Z demonstrators elsewhere in Africa and beyond against governments perceived as authoritarian and corrupt. It remains to be seen if this new wave of protests usher in a new era. EU countries have 5 years to prepare for war, according to a military plan that was announced by the European Commission. According to the plan, by 2030, Europe needs a sufficiently strong European defense posture to credibly deter its adversaries, as well as respond to any aggressions. The Defense Readiness Roadmap 2030 is a sign of the EU's growing role in military affairs, a reaction to Russia's war on Ukraine and US President Donald Trump's pressure for Europe to take the burden for its own security. The Commission outlined 4 flagship projects in the roadmap, as well as boosting the bloc's military-industrial complex while continuing to support Ukraine. The 4 key defense efforts in the roadmap are the European Drone Defense Initiative, the Eastern Flank Watch, the European Air Shield, and the European Space Shield. The idea is for the Commission to help members coordinate on projects that are too large for a single country to do on its own, while being mindful of the need to preserve national sovereignty over defense. The document says the EU will help mobilize up to 800 billion euros to spend on defense, including 150 billion euros loans for weapons. Its feasibility, however, hinges on overcoming significant challenges of scale, cost, and interoperability across NATO's vast eastern flank, where integrating national command structures remains both technically and politically complex. The plan also faces institutional resistance, with France and Germany reportedly reluctant to cede control of major defense programs to Brussels. The Dutch government has this week effectively seized control of Nexperia, a Chinese-owned but Netherlands-based semiconductor maker. For the first time, The Hague has used its Goods Availability Act because of a threat to the continuity and safeguarding on Dutch and European soil of crucial technological knowledge and capabilities. Nexperia is one of the world's largest makers of simple computer chips, such as diodes and transistors. A state-backed Chinese investment consortium acquired Nexperia for $2.75 billion in 2017 after it was carved out of NXP Semiconductors, a Dutch chip manufacturer. In 2018, the consortium began selling its shares to Chinese technology group Wingtech, which became Nexperia's majority owner in 2019. Wingtech released a statement which said the move gravely contravenes the European Union's long-standing advocacy for market economy principles, fair competition, and international trade norms. This is the latest act in the economic war with China, and considering the close alignment between the Dutch and the US on ASML, it's very likely this latest act in the economic war was taken in full alignment with the US. Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharia told Vladimir Putin he wanted to redefine ties between the two countries during his first official visit to Moscow. Despite having been on opposite sides of the battle lines during the Syrian civil war, the new rulers in Damascus have taken a pragmatic approach to relations with Moscow. Russia has retained a presence at its air and naval bases on the Syrian coast, and the Kremlin has voiced hope for negotiating a deal to keep the outposts. The Syrian leader assured that Damascus would honor all past agreements with Moscow. There are bilateral relations and shared interests interests that bind us with Russia, and we respect all agreements made with it, he said. For Damascus, maintaining ties with Russia is important for rebuilding the war-shattered country and shoring up international legitimacy for the government. With Israel backing some of the Alawi groups and the Druze, Shara has come to see Russia's presence in Syria as a counterweight to Israeli aggression and expansion.